Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've got some exciting news about the Nintendo Switch 2, which the announcement's already going to be in a couple days. Whenever I end up making these videos, I base my facts on reality as well as my understanding of the business side of video games and what have you. It's something that I don't talk about all too much front and center on the channel because it's kind of really just boring business stuff. But it's been something that I've always been intrigued with. And so my point being is that instead of most of those leakers out there that spread a bunch of false information and guesswork, I am also going to be giving you my guesswork, but a lot of it is based around reality. So first and foremost, one of the most obvious questions that we all have is whether or not the Nintendo Direct on April 2nd is going to be when they allow us to pre-order the Switch 2. I'd say it's more than likely. I've also seen a couple posts that ended up getting buried right away that Best Buy has the pre-order scheduled for April 2nd, so it's probably going to end up being like right after the showcase. It would make the most sense with the timing because otherwise what reveal are they going to actually end up having at the showcase? I've seen a lot of people speculating what they're going to end up showcasing game-wise, and I'm here to tell you that we're probably going to end up having a showcase that is more so focused on the Nintendo Switch hardware itself. And maybe we'll have Mario Kart 9 in the background for them to talk about the system and its capabilities while using Mario Kart 9 gameplay. But another interesting thing that came up was the inclusion of Nintendo Switch 2 editions of existing games. This is something that I've discussed at length with my friends and cousin because we're both kind of Nintendo nerds. To paint the picture, a game like Zelda Breath of the Wild was designed around playing at 24 frames per second. So if you play it on an emulator on PC and you unlock the frame rate to 60 frames, it makes the physics freak out because the game wasn't designed to run at that frame rate, which would mean that in order to play these games on the Switch 2, we would more than likely see Breath of the Wild just be playing at a stable 24 frames, because otherwise it means Nintendo would have to go into the internal code and kind of readjust a bunch of things, give it a more than just a simple patch. It would have to be like a redesign of sorts because they would have to make the physics not get wonky at 60 frames. On top of that, as we saw with the Metroid Prime 4 gameplay, the first showcase of Metroid Prime 4 was clearly on the Switch 2 hardware, whereas the more recent showcase ended up showing it on the Nintendo Switch 1 hardware. The most obvious reason for this is because the picture is a lot more blurry on the Switch 1, which means that a Switch 2 version of the game is 100% confirmed. And on top of that, it actually has sharper images. This means that, again, referring to a game like Breath of the Wild, we would not only have to see a frame rate bump, we would have to also see something that brings up the quality with some sort of anti-aliasing, or maybe even just a different type of upscaler. But some freak ended up looking in the terms of service with like the Nintendo Switch virtual games, you know, the virtual card, whatever. And there's a line here that says the Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive games and Nintendo Switch 2 edition games can only be loaded onto the Nintendo Switch 2 system. Now, what I'm wondering is Nintendo going to end up going big mode and just giving us these updates for free? I could totally see them doing that. That would be awesome, and it would be a very Nintendo thing to do because they're such a premium company. Or, more realistically, I could also see them having a paid upgrade similar to the PS4 upgrading games to the PS5 version. My only real issue with this is that Nintendo Switch games are already incredibly expensive for me, being Canadian. They're $100. To put that into perspective, a full price game on PC or on other consoles is usually like 80 or 90 bucks. But if a Switch 2 edition of a game costs like $10 or $20, then that means we're looking at a price of upwards of $100 for every video game for the Switch 2. I could totally see it happening, and that would be fine to a degree, but if there's one thing that's kept me from playing a lot of different Nintendo series, like Pikmin, for example, I'm not willing to shell out full price for all of these different games that I don't have experience with. Kind of unrelated, but kind of related at the same time is GTA 6 is more than likely going to set the new standard price for every video game, which I'm expecting is going to be anywhere between 90 to 100 US dollars, which would make sense for Switch 2 games to essentially be 110, 120 dollars Canadian for me, because that's how much games would become if GTA set that new price point. Now, another reason I wanted to bring all this up is because the 2-ticket voucher is something that isn't going to work with Switch 2 games, which means it's probably also not going to work with Switch 2 edition games. So for those of you that don't know, you could spend like $130, $140 for a 2-ticket voucher that would allow you to get 2 Nintendo games, thus saving you like $30 or $40 depending on the price of the games overall. There was already a post like maybe a month or two ago of Nintendo stating that those ticket vouchers will no longer work on the Switch 2, because I'm guessing some freaks were probably trying to buy up a bunch of them in preparation to get some Switch 2 games for cheap. But where this becomes relevant for me is because I ended up buying a 2-ticket voucher last year in September for the Zelda Echoes game, and I have been clinging on to hope that Metroid Prime 4 would be a game that I could spend the second ticket on. The reason why the date is so relevant is because these 2-ticket vouchers last for a year before they expire. But when they ended up announcing that the ticket voucher wouldn't work on Switch 2 games, I got immediately concerned, but then the last Nintendo Direct confirmed that Metroid Prime 4 is a Switch 1 and 2 game. So worst case scenario, I'll be able to spend my ticket to get Metroid Prime 4 on my Switch 1, and then I'll have to pay a little bit to upgrade it. Why is he rambling about this? Maybe there's somebody that's watching this video that's in a similar boat to me. At the very least, if you're not interested in Metroid Prime, you could get the new Pokemon game. Let's be real, Nintendo games never go on sale, so there's no reason not to take advantage of it. Oh, and one last thing I wanted to mention is there's this Nintendo Today app that you can get on your phone now, and it actually has like a lot of things scheduled. Like it talks about the Nintendo Zelda Live-Action movie being available in 2027, which means that it's pretty good odds that that's going to be when the next big Zelda game is going to come out, is in a couple years. But then there's also going to end up being a whole bunch of in-person showcases of the Switch 2. Like there's an experience in Berlin, Dallas, Milan, Toronto. The list goes on, but as we end up skipping through the months, I found it really interesting that all of the showcases for the Switch 2 stop outright in June. Now, I'm not gonna say the Nintendo Switch 2 is already gonna be releasing in June like some other leakers out there are trying to pretend. I think that the app itself more than likely just doesn't have anything scheduled from June and beyond. But I do think that there is a high possibility we will be getting the Switch 2 earlier than it seems. I mean, we know it's coming out this year for sure, and we know pre-orders are definitely going to start soon, if not in a couple days. And it would be awesome if we did get the game console as soon as June. That would really keep the buying temperature up for a lot of people. But if I had to guess, I'd say maybe like around the holidays or something. It really depends if they're trying to have the console come out before GTA 6. I don't know if Nintendo is even aware or cares though. But that's pretty much everything, and I don't feel like wasting your guys' time with a 20-minute video speculating over 40 seconds worth of content. As always, when I have these videos for you guys, I give you a huge pool of information that's based on reality rather than fiction, and I'm not going to end up having another video talking about the same stupid things tomorrow. These are few and far between because I don't feel like scamming you guys.